I'm probably going to say half of my clients are on GLP-1s right now. And not a lot of them are having good experiences. The results that I think we're seeing in the media, and we see a lot of celebrities on them. And so that's interesting. That's just my experience with them. So those GLP-1s, what are they trying to do, right? It's reducing the appetite, it's slowing our stomach emptying, and it is improving our insulin resistance, so blood sugar control. When that's all happening, we eat less, right? People who tend to go on the GLP-1s, they are experiencing weight loss. However, what I'm seeing now that's really closely tied to that weight loss isn't that it's necessarily coming from fat stores, but it's muscle atrophy. And that's alarming to me because now I'm looking at a subcategory of women who are all in perimenopause. And all of a sudden, what happens if they go on Ozempic? So if we start getting rid of our muscle, this is where I'm wondering, well, what's going to happen when they come off of it?
This is StRest. I'm Kerstin Lindquist, health coach, author, and Emmy award-winning TV host. I've committed to helping people reduce stress through impressive health science, attainable mindset change, and biblical truth. Let's have a real conversation with zero judgment and endless solutions that you can use. You aren't alone. You can do this. Let me help you reduce stress and make room for rest. So we have a repeat guest today, Natalie Fader. She is a certified and registered behavioral and nutritional therapist. She has a virtual practice from Canada, but most of her clients actually are in the United States. She talks about taking that behavior and then also taking what you've learned in health, nutrition, wellness, sleep, movement, and how you pair the two together. Because don't you always say, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. She's the one that helps you break through this. This episode was very important to me because in our previous episode, there was so much left that I wanted to ask her about. So we are going to broach the topics of GLP-1s. Our entire conversation is how to help a woman through this perimenopause and menopausal journey when it comes to nutrition, movement, sleep, but mainly nutrition. We're also going to talk about the role of progesterone in her life as well as mine, cold shoulder, protein. What's the difference between eating your protein and drinking your protein and how important that is as well. We'll also touch on sleep. When you wake up in the middle of the night, what do you do? Her favorite supplements. We'll talk about L-theanine, which is one we haven't talked about in a while. There's a lot to get to in this episode with the nutritional therapist, Natalie Fader. Hey, quick break. Are you feeling your age a little bit? Joints or maybe brittle hair or face, skin? One supplement can address all of that. It's collagen. And my favorite by far is Ancient Nutrition. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body, so we need it. And Ancient Nutrition is my favorite because it's made from real quality ingredients that I know that I can trust. In just 2 scoops of their multi-collagen protein, you are getting 20 grams of protein to help support your hair, your skin, your nails, your joints. And as an added bonus, you're also getting vitamin C and probiotics. That's for gut and digestive health support. It's the perfect addition to any beverage. You can put it in your shake and things like that, but also overnight oats, baked goods. But I put the unflavored multi-collagen protein in my black coffee every single morning. It's perfect because it mixes really easily and it's virtually tasteless. I especially also love their strawberry lemonade because it's very super refreshing in the summer, but whatever, you need to get your collagen. Multi-collagen protein is more than just collagen. It's real results that you can see and feel from ingredients that you can trust. That's why I'm talking about it. Right now, you can get 25% off. You go to ancientnutrition.com and put in the code STREST25. That's STREST 25. STREST25 at ancientnutrition.com. And that's going to get you 25% off site-wide. Make sure you grab my favorite for the dark coffee, which is your multi-collagen protein, but then also try something else as well. You're going to love it. That's STREST25 for 25% off. Get your collagen. Natalie, it's so good to have you back. Thanks for coming back a second time.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
For people who missed your first episode, which they all need to go back and listen to, give a kind of cliff notes on who you are, what you do, and why we love you so much.
I am a registered and certified CBT and nutritional therapist. And so what I do is I combine nutritional counseling with cognitive behavioral therapy. And I did that because when I first became a nutritionist, I realized that people kind of already sort of knew what to be eating and doing, but it was the why am I not doing it? And that's sort of how it all came together.
It's fascinating and it's so important because when you think about it, you're right. Like we know that we shouldn't eat the donut, but we should eat the strawberry or whatever it is.
I know.
But it is that cognitive part of it that's hard.
Yeah. And like, I want us to eat the donut too. You know, I do want us to have the fun foods. It's when we're not in control of it or when it's sabotaging our overall goals. That's when we're running into some challenges.
So our last discussion, there was so many questions that I still had and things that I thought that we needed to dive into. So this time I wanted to have you back to talk kind of specifically about what happens when it comes to nutrition and our emotions and everything that you do in perimenopause and menopause. So where do we start?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think we have to look at first, let's look at the perimenopause conversation and just how grateful I think women finally feel that they're being acknowledged for all the symptoms that they are having and that it is directly linked to their hormones, and just how hard it is for all of us to manage, because I think all of us are having a different experience with it. And actually, I saw a really cool graph, and it was women's hormones before perimenopause, so in their 20s, early 30s, and the hormones, so testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, were on this like steady graph. So you could see this natural pattern that the hormones had. And then the second a woman were to hit perimenopause, it was like a kid got crayons and just like drew all over the graph. And I was like, that is exactly what this is. Like, this is why it's
That's
so
how
hard.
we feel.
Yes,
Right.
and why it's so hard to treat. But nutrition certainly plays a role, and like lifestyle plays a huge role. I know we're gonna dive into it. And through my own experience, I guinea pigged myself because I was like, wait a second. Everyone's talking about all these things we're supposed to be doing, and also hormone replacement therapy. But it's also everyone's like, are we okay to do that? Is that an okay thing? Like before it was scary, right? Because there was some negative side effects to it. And the conversation seems to be that actually maybe it's not as
Or a
bad as we
thought
thought.
that there was a negative side effect to it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so there's that part. And then what you asked about sort of the like emotional behavioral connection to it all is, I wonder if we just get to midlife and we're almost like, who am I doing this for? I know when I was younger, a lot of it is because I cared a lot more about what people thought. And so external factors really influence what we do, how we look. And I know certainly as I've gotten older, I care a lot less about what others are thinking. And I just care more about how I feel about myself and who am I, and showing people who I really am. And so there's a self-connection piece, and that directly links to the behavioral piece. And I think sometimes it's the inconsistency, right? Where we're like, what am I doing? Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to eat differently? How am I connected to myself? How am I feeling? And it was like what we talked about last time with transactional analysis, really understanding sort of authentic self versus those two egos, your kid ego and your parent ego, major drivers in the conversation that's going on in our head, because you can wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to have this really great day. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to eat well. And then come midday, you're just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eat, I'm going to eat these donuts, and I'm not going to work out at all. And tomorrow I'll do it tomorrow.
There is a beauty in hitting this age and having, like, people will say that I don't give a F, right? That kind of kicks in, or I don't care as much. There's a beauty in that.
Yes,
but
for sure.
To your point, when it comes to caring for ourselves, we also start to get that. And we can't at this time in our life because we have to care for ourselves even more. So it's interesting that you say that, because I kind of feel the same way. Whereas there's certain moments in my life where I'll be like, do I really care if I'm healthy? And then immediately, yes, I am. Yes, I do. I mean, that's my life's work. But I can see where that piece can come in for others.
Yeah. Yeah. But you see how those two narratives kind of played? Like, we understand that now because we talked about egos and authentic self. So there's the part of you that says, I do care. I care greatly about my health. But then the ego says, no, I want to have fun. Because last time we talked about who that kid ego in our head was. And that is the pleasure seeking, escaping ego that can't handle the negativity that it's feeling. It's very feeling centric. And so when we're feeling anything negative, overwhelmed, depleted, or any specific negative emotion, angry, frustrated, even sad, right? That part of your psyche is going, I want you to feel better. So it's going to go pleasure seek or escape. Oh, let's go eat that thing and let's not do that. Like even self-care starts to look like work. And so it starts to say, no, let's do that. You need a break. But then there's the authentic part of you that is like, wait a second. No, I don't want to sabotage my efforts into this healthy lifestyle that matters to me. Because if I want change, I need to be consistent and I need to be held accountable. And if I allow for these inconsistencies all the time, I'm not actually going to reach a goal. And that's going to be frustrating. I'm going to spin my wheels.
And understand we're talking because Natalie is in the nutrition space and the health and wellness space. This could be spending. It could be over shopping. It could be continuing to jump into bad relationships. Like there's a lot of things where that kid ego and then your adult play in.
Yeah.
Go back to the nutrition piece. So one of the ways that people are always trying to balance in this space is, okay, can I just eat my way into better health, or do I actually need help, be it hormones, weight loss drugs, supplements?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that? Can we just change our lifestyle and eat better and we can get through this time of our life and thrive?
I think it's more than just nutrition. In fact, when we look at the hierarchy of what's the most important, nutrition isn't even in the first slot, it's movement. Longevity relies on how much your body moves every single day. And that doesn't mean going to the gym. It just means how active you are. Walking is the most underrated form of exercise, and we're not talking about doing wild amounts of cardio. We're just talking about throughout your day, how much movement are you doing, strength training, and we can get into that. Movement is actually linked to longevity, number one slot, then nutrition, then it's stress management, and then it's sleep. So those are like the 4 pillars. And so it's like, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I always try to work on sleep first, sleep and stress, because I feel like you can't make good decisions about food and you can't make good decisions about movement if you're not well rested.
I'm with you on that one. I love sleep. It's the one that I actually suffered with the most before I even recognized that I was in perimenopause, because I was going, what is going on? Why am I not sleeping? I've written sleep workshops. I did all of the things that I would teach to others. And I'm going, why isn't this working? But you're right. It affects you, right? If you don't sleep, because your hormones are directly affected when you don't sleep. So your mood
So what did you do?
affected. I went to my doctor and I was like, listen, I was like, here's all the things that I do for sleep. I was like, these are the supplements I do. I meditate, I journal, I process she knows what I do for a living. So she was actually surprised to even see me in her office. I never go to my doctor. And she actually wanted to give me more of an anti-anxiety medication, right? So we've heard this narrative before. And granted, my dad was sick and I understood why she was doing that. But I said, no, this is more than that. This is so much more than I'm stressed about that. This has been leading up over the last year and it's just getting worse. And I have no problem falling asleep. I'm constantly waking up in that like 2, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. time frame, and I'm awake for hours. And all my methods weren't working. I was doing all kinds of things. I was writing out what I was thinking. I was getting I was eating peanut butter. Like I was like, whatever, maybe it's my blood sugar that's dropping,
Yes, I went through that too. Like, okay, maybe this is a blood sugar thing. I need to stop fasting. Maybe it's a cortisol thing. Like,
yeah. So you're doing all the things that we hear about and none of it's working. And so what I actually ended up doing is reaching out to a menopause specialist. And she told me, because some people at the time were asking for blood tests. And actually, she was the doctor who said, we don't treat perimenopause with blood tests just because of how bananas your hormones are. Just like I was talking before, it's like kids.
Yeah, the kid and the crayons.
Yeah. So if you were to take one blood test, that's not going to give you a clear picture of what's actually going on with your hormones. And so she treats symptoms. And so I told her my symptoms and she was like, you, my dear, have entered perimenopause. And it made sense. I'm 41. They say it can be as early as 35. We're seeing on average start 38, but certainly in your 40s, there's a whole list of symptoms that feel like just regular life stress symptoms, but they're not. They're related to what's going on inside of us, which is this dramatic change to our hormone cycles. And so she put me on progesterone, a micronized progesterone, which is bioidentical. And I was sleeping so great within 2 weeks. It was like I was just so happy. I was like, thank you, thank goodness, like I just needed to sleep. I had all this other stuff going on I needed to manage, and I needed that sleep.
Was it topical or oral? Or is it topical or oral?
It's oral. And so what I found out is oral progesterone, you take that for sleep because of the way that it's metabolized in your liver is how it converts is actually what makes you sleepy.
I have a very similar story. So I'm now 47, and I think maybe it was 44, 43 or 44.
Mhm.
I teach sleep. Like, why am I not sleeping? This is ridiculous. And I went to my naturopath and she said progesterone as well, only we did the topical and same situation. Like it was the heavens opened up. But I did a topical like an oil. And
Yeah.
so, and it's interesting though, now that I'm 47, and the sleep is all taken care of, at least right now it is. And went on an oral progesterone there for a while because I was getting older and okay, maybe this is what I need. And that actually didn't do great things to me. So
Hey.
have now been off of progesterone totally for like the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. I'm sure I'll go back on it. But I love the fact that we can look at these nuances that some of the younger perimenopause, you might really benefit from progesterone in your life.
Yeah. Well, and just us talking about it and our experience, how wildly different it is, different forms. And it's just, I want that to be encouraging that it's good to trial and error it. Figure it out. What works for you might not work for somebody else, and that's okay. Right. I just want to feel normal again.
And yeah. And what works for you at one age might stop working for you and you need to do something different at a second age.
Absolutely.
Like if you keep that picture of the kid with the crayons and your hormones in your head, understand that then how you clean that up is going to change given what the drawing looks like day after day
Yeah.
after day.
That's a great point because when you start taking progesterone, now that's going to directly affect how estrogen goes up and down, right? So
Mhm.
already right there, that's going to make a bit of a domino effect. So you're right. Yeah. Wild times.
So we were talking about nutrition and can it be fixed with nutrition? And you said, no, it's more of there's so many different, the 4 different pillars of health and wellness. It's not
Yeah.
just how we eat.
I think it has a huge effect. I don't want to say no, it doesn't help. I think it does. One of the things I actually did as the guinea pig was that I recognized my shoulders were hurting. Have you heard of this frozen shoulder thing with
Are we the
perimenopause?
same person?
I think so.
That was literally one of my very first symptoms. And I went to like a sports therapist and I was in like rehab for 8 months thinking it was a lifting injury. Not one of these male doctors said anything about the fact that it could be perimenopause at like 42, 43 years old. And years later, I realized that's what that was.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but we're doing it now so that everyone behind us can go, wait a second, maybe it's perimenopause. But I was in such pain. It was building for about 3 months. It started in my left shoulder, then it went into my right shoulder. And same as you, I was like, is it an injury from working out? Is it those planks I was doing or something? Like, I was playing badminton with my son. Was it that did it? And then one day I was up and the pain was just unbearable. Like it was burning in my shoulders. And I just said, no, you know what? I'm going to not eat processed foods for 6 weeks. And I'm going to see if this is an inflammation thing, because that's part of the perimenopause journey. It's not just the hormones going all over the place. It's that inflammation is increasing. And so within 4 weeks, so by the fourth week, so I was doing about 95% whole foods. So mostly no sugars and no flours. So I was eating dairy and I was eating kind of everything else, but nothing processed with sugars and flours. And by the fourth week, the pain in my right shoulder had completely gone away, and the pain in my left had gone down about 80%. And I was like, okay, this just shows you that nutrition certainly plays a role. Is it going to be the fix? No. Do we need a layered approach? Yes. But I felt that. I felt what that whole food diet gave me, that relief that I needed, and I was in control of it. That was something that was important to me. I don't want to be taking too many things either. So knowing that I could make these choices with food and reap that benefit was a pretty nice feeling.
What did a day in the life of eating that way look like?
So I don't like being in the kitchen very much at all. I'm not, it's
Mhm.
people find that interesting because I guess I don't know if you get that a lot, but being in the
I'm
nutrition.
the same way.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you should write a cookbook. I'm like, I don't cook
Yeah,
like at
no,
all.
no.
That's not
My
my thing.
cookbook would look terrible. It would be like, I joke
Yeah.
about it with clients. Like I ate leftover salmon and then I had a banana
Yeah.
for breakfast. You know,
Yeah.
it's very it's fuel focused. Okay. So I ate a lot of protein, animal protein. So I was eating usually eggs in the morning or leftover protein from dinner, which was usually a chicken or or salmon, a fish of some kind. Or I would drink a protein drink. And we can talk about the differences between drinking your protein and eating your
Yes.
proteins.
That was one of my big takeaways from last episode. So I want to talk about that.
So I like to eat 2 meals in the morning. So I would always eat usually something fibery. So I'd have like a high fiber oatmeal. And then I wanted something whole proteins, eggs, fish, leftover. And then lunches were always bagged salads. I love bagged salads. They're getting better. I don't know what they're like where you are, but I'm very impressed by the bagged salad.
I am too. I mean, throw away the dressing because it's seed oil, but other than that, you're good.
Yeah, you can, and some of them are better. Like some of ours have vinaigrettes. So yeah, pick your dressing that you're comfortable with. But this is where I would hang out in the 95%. So, I ate a shrimp ring one day, and that has cocktail sauce in it, which is made of ketchup. So there's a little bit of sugar in there, but I didn't want it to be, I wasn't trying to do all or nothing. I wasn't trying to be 100% perfect. And the kid in me is like, what do you mean we're going to have shrimp, we're going to have cocktail sauce, and that's what I did. So bag salads, canned tuna, soups. I was eating a lot of soups because it was cold here still. So soups are nice. Sometimes leftover dinner, and then snacks always in the afternoon were always, I found these really delicious dips that were made out of sunflower seeds and beets. It's a local company here, and they did different
Sounds
flavors.
great.
I was like, it's such a different twist on hummus. So it's all whole
Yeah.
foods. And I was just cutting up, cucumber. I found these grain crackers that didn't have any flours in them, and they were like to get that crunch. Fruit. So I was always eating fruit sort of in the morning, and then later in the afternoon, peanut butter or even some cheese. I was eating cheese, kind of the less processed stuff, the better, higher quality cheeses. And then dinners were always, super easy. I would roast a chicken, and that was, and then more bag salad, or I'd cook up whatever vegetable was in season. Potatoes, if I wanted something like, a French fry, I was making roasting our own potatoes. And then at the end of the day, so I love sweet things. And so I wondered, how was I going to do this whole foods thing without having sugar? Because I really have a sweet tooth. And I found another company locally, and she does chocolate and she sweetens it with dates. She turns like date sugar. And
That's
I was
great.
like, I'm going to allow it because it's not processed sugar. It is dates. And it was pretty good. And so I'd always end my day with some of this chocolate that she made, and it just felt good. It was easy because it was convenient, and people think that it's not, right?
So you're going to send us that name of that, because that's all I can think about right now is that I need that in my life.
The date chocolate?
The date chocolate.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what that is. She'd probably be very excited that I'm talking about it.
Yes, because again, going back to perhaps for the same person, I am the 2 breakfasts as well, and it's usually oatmeal. Just like, and we had the oatmeal conversation before. Natalie and I allow oatmeal. I know there's a lot of controversy over oatmeal. Obviously, get the good kind, not sprayed with glyphosate. Be somebody who exercises, because if you're sedentary and you're eating something like that, obviously oats do sometimes, they're made to fatten up a cow and things like that. But for us, for people who they have a lot of good stuff to them. So I'll do like the oatmeal, and then I'll do an egg with vegetables meal as well. I love bagged salads, just like you do. What about, so you were talking about like the shrimp and the tuna. Do you think about like the things like mercury or those types of things?
Much. I don't eat enough of it. I think you'd have to eat it every single day for there to be an accumulation, or every other day. I probably eat small can too, of tuna, maybe once a week. Shrimp, it's the same thing. It's every once in a while, but eating it once or twice a week, we shouldn't be seeing accumulations building up of those.
I feel the same
materials.
way. And they're really good proteins. So just, again, be picky with what you choose, what kind you get.
Yeah.
And doing that. And then I too am a dark like as dark of chocolate as you can possibly get. That's like my thing too. So
You
when
like
I
the
think
bitter.
about, but I also like sweet,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
dark chocolate covered almond, which usually isn't very healthy for you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but that one's good because you've got the chocolate with the nut, so you've got the
Mhm.
sweet with the fat, so you're good,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we're pairing the nutrients together so that there's not a huge blood sugar
So
spike.
you were using, this is what I did. Did you stop? So did you graduate from this way of eating?
I did stop after about 6 weeks. I had planned a spa weekend with my girlfriends, and so it was they did pretty nice food there, but I did stop and I dropped it back down to 80/20. So I
Mhm.
recognize the whole reason I even thought about it, the inflammation in the first place, was because when I really assessed my diet, I thought I'm eating a lot more processed food than I normally do. I was still eating the same amount of whole foods, but just more processed foods were sneaking in. And I think that's just life. That's just how it happens. You're on trips or the weather gets warmer and all of a sudden you're going out more and it just happens. Yeah, I've gone back now to probably 80/20. I feel like last week we got, my husband and I were just talking. We're like, okay, I felt like we had like way too much ice cream. And we had people over and people brought chips and you just kind of notice when you're like, this is just kind of out of balance for what I'm normally doing. And so we're bringing it back to the 80/20 this.
So funny. So last week we were on vacation. We were down at the shore and exactly the same. I was having like croissants from the French bakery
Mhm.
every other day, salt and vinegar chips on the boat. The kids had ice cream every night. Like I can't do dairy. I can
Okay.
do goat.
Yep.
I can't even really do sheep, but I can do goat cheese. That's about it. So, but I went and I got this avocado ice cream. Oh my God. So that's the base of it instead of dairy, but it still has
Okay.
sugar in it, right? So I was
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
that, and my daughter had a birthday, so I had a bite of her brownies, and I was like, okay, we need to rein this in. But
Yeah.
the funny, not funny, but goes to show part of it. My shoulder, so I had a cold shoulder years and years and years ago, and I was starting in the last couple weeks. I'm like, why am I starting to feel this again? And it's a little bit different, so I'm not sure if it's cold, but it is definitely just like you're saying, like that's an inflammation thing. So
That's
this
just too
week,
much
reining
glucose.
it in.
The
Yeah.
glucose. It's the glucose. That's why carbs get a bad name, I think, but it's the sugars. It's the processed sugars that I find. So those ones, when someone asks, they're like, what's the first thing I should drop if they don't want to do both sugar and flours? I'm like, just drop the sugars first.
Drop the sugars. Got
See
to
how
break
that
up with the
feels.
sugars.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is yes, you're in perimenopause and you are trying to treat yourself with diet first.
Mhm.
Yes, there
Yes.
are things, and we do know that we can't eat in our 40s like we ate in our 20s and early
I
30s. You
know.
just can't.
That is hard to learn though. My kitty
It
keeps
is.
trying. She's like, well, what if we have a little bit more? We could be okay.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
what they do.
absolutely. But it's not that you have to deny yourself and you can't have pleasure and have joy in what you eat.
Yeah, we can't deny ourselves. That's that restriction sort of binge scale, right? The more we take away from ourselves, there's going to be a boomerang effect. So we have to be really careful with what we're taking out of the diet and why, and paying attention to, I always say pay attention to the fun that you're having in life, but also with your food. And while you're eating it, if the joy is gone, I'll be sitting there eating the ice cream and I'm just like, I'm not even tasting this anymore. I'm like, then don't eat it anymore. If the fun is gone, just stop eating it. And that actually helped me sort of build a better relationship with sort of the junkier foods, that the ones that just aren't as nutritionally rewarding. And but it also keeps that part of you that's not feeling the restriction. Because if I keep saying you can't have this, you can't have this, well, what do we know is going to happen, right? We're going to want it more. And then we won't only be able to tolerate that restriction for so long before we're like, okay, forget it, I'm done. I'm going to just eat whatever and it doesn't matter. That's that like F it mentality that we were talking about before,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid getting to that place as much as we can, which often means we have to intercept with ourselves and be like, what's going on? When you're saying that, like the second you say it, it's like, pause, what's going on? And trying to have that conversation with yourself. See what it is you
Let's
need.
circle back to the protein because I am a big fan of supplementing protein. So first of all, what are your guidelines for people when it comes to protein?
So usually like bare minimum, like half a gram per pound. We're now recommending closer to, one gram per pound of desired body weight. That I recognize is a lot. And I think we need to be drinking some of it. So this is where when we look at how much protein can I consume in a day, what am I trying to do? If people are trying to lose weight, I will often say eat as much of your protein as you can, because that takes a while for your body to break down. And so it's going to spend time breaking that down, which means you're going to feel full longer. Your blood sugar is going to stay stable longer, which means there's no hormones that's going to turn around in half an hour and say, hey, we're hungry, let's eat again. So I often will say, if we're eating it, well, you can do this with drinking it too, but it's like a 30-30-30 rule. Try to get 30 grams in the morning, try to get 30 grams in the afternoon, try to get 30 grams in the evening. For women in perimenopause, if they're not eating it, please drink it. It's the direct relationship to muscle atrophy. Yeah. And we need those amino acids. So if we drink it, it's so much easier than eating it, and that can be different than the weight loss narrative. It doesn't always have to be talking about the weight loss narrative with protein, which is, I think, what people keep hearing, which we understand now that we're like, oh, right, it keeps you stable and you just don't want to consume as much because you're not as hungry. But now we're recognizing why I might want to drink it. And that's because I don't want those muscles deteriorating, because that is where your metabolism is. People don't make that connection.
Yeah, it's so good. And what about types of collagen? Let me ask that question. I mean, not collagen, protein.
Yes.
What types of protein do you want? Whey, collagen, plant-based, does it matter?
It does. It depends on your digestive system. Some people can't tolerate, like pea protein powders, but some people can. I often see more fermented pea protein powders. People can tolerate those a lot better. Whey protein just happens to be overall highly absorbable. And so we like that, but you don't have to consume that one. You can certainly do a vegetarian option or a marine option, right? There's marine collagens. And so the collagens are like a different subset of amino acids, and their responsibility is very structural. So your hair, your nails, arguing a little bit now in that field. I see people sort of, how much does it do for the muscle? Not very much necessarily for the muscle. How much does it do for the gut? I've seen a 50-50 conversation saying it doesn't do much for the gut, and another argument that says, no, it still does. And if we think about what collagen is doing, which is the structural repair, and you think about the gut lining and what is your GI tract, and that gut lining is part of the structural repair. I'm leaning more on the fence of that collagen does have a positive effect on the gut, and great to take. I take it every morning in my coffee, also because of your joints, right? All the materials in your joints.
That's what I was going to say, especially for those of us with like the shoulder thing, like, oh,
absolutely.
yes.
All the help we can get.
I truly believe that collagen protein needs to be a piece when you're a woman in perimenopause and menopause. All people, honestly, like we see a lot of research that is great for pregnant women too. And, but specifically when we're talking about this, that we're talking about, collagen needs to be a piece. And I do the exact same thing. So I do scoops in my coffee in the morning. I use Ancient Nutrition. That's the one that I just find the easiest and the best quality.
Nice.
And a third of the protein in our body is made up of collagen. So, and we start to lose that lean muscle mass after age 30 by like 1% every decade. So for your joints, for your hair, for your skin, your nails, I think that is a big piece of it. But that's just one piece of protein that you need.
But it's the hair loss too piece, right? Women are losing hair in perimenopause and they don't know why. And so, is there a direct relationship to supporting the structure, our hair structure while that's happening? I think yes.
I've heard people who can do like a 50-gram protein shake, like first thing in the morning to like really get it. So like you do your whey protein, which you get like 20, sometimes 30, depending on what it is. Then maybe you're putting in like a goat's milk or a sheep's milk. Maybe you're putting in a scoop of nut butter. And then you're also boosting it with another scoop of collagen. So they're getting that like really front loading that 50 grams first thing in the morning. So it is possible to get to these protein goals. A lot of people think there's no way I can have that much protein.
I know. You can. It is. Adding a supplement makes this so much easier. And then we always forget too that there's protein in our vegetables, and in our grains. So when we're combining, like if you're eating more whole foods, you're eating more grains, you're eating more veggies, you are getting a lot more protein than you think.
Now, I think it was you who said, though, a protein shake won't necessarily give you the satiation that like eating a steak will do.
Absolutely, because it's already processed. Those amino acids are already broken down so that protein isn't in its full form. It's broken down. So technically it's processed, which is like the only processed food I'm really into. But
Yeah.
you want it that way because it's absorbable, right? My body's going to take that and it's directly going to do something with it. Where when I'm eating something, because it doesn't need to be broken down, right? So it's liquid. So it's it's almost like a sponge. Whereas when I'm eating something like a steak, my body now has to burn calories to break that steak down. And that's the other conversation we always have, right? The whole calorie conversation. When you're eating more whole foods and now we're reaching our protein goals and we're taking care of our muscle through strength training, you know, we're really revving the metabolism up. And that's a good thing. We need that. And so when you're eating steak, you're taking so much longer to break that all down. So we're talking hours. You know, you could eat a steak and be content for 2-3 hours. Easy.
And you are somebody who eat it all. So you're like not vegan, not vegetarian, not carnivore. Let's eat it all.
I want to eat it all. The closest thing I would say that I follow is the Mediterranean diet. I think that one's kind of the gold standard and one that I was taught. We talked about my education last time, and that one is one Harvard was talking about in our class. Was just that one seems to be just consistency over time, seems to be the closest gold standard we have. Everyone always has to take into consideration their own intolerances, sensitivities, and preferences. You know, I would never push it on anybody. I don't judge anybody. Like even if somebody, you know, were to say to me, just because I eat a certain way and someone wants to be vegan, I'm never going to say you're doing it wrong and I'm doing it right. I don't think that's the right narrative. I think it's how are you eating? What are you eating? How is it making you feel? What are your needs? What are your symptoms? You know, I've seen people eat similar diets and have different reactions to them. And so it's just such a unique thing to go through, figuring out what your nutritional standards are.
Which is the thing you have to ask yourself all the time. If you've always been eating a certain way and you're like, this is my beliefs, this is how I feel that I must be a vegetarian or I must be a vegan or I must be a carnivore. What Natalie's saying is okay, but every 6 months, check in with how you are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Is that serving you? Because you could be eating one way, you know, you could be a carnivore, but your body is saying, no, I think I need to have more plant-based. Or you could be a vegan or a vegetarian because that's how you were since you were a teenager. And all of a sudden you've hit an age where your body's like, I need animal in my life because that's going to serve my body in this time. So not being so connected to the way that you've always eaten.
And recognize that if you're going to make changes, your microbiome is set up to support the way that you've been eating. So if we want to all of a sudden, if we haven't been eating meat and we want to introduce meat back into the diet, if you were to just go eat a steak, you would have such digestive challenges. It would probably be very painful because there's no bacteria living down there that actually break down red meat. You'd have right. And so then people think, I see red meat's not for me because I had all these challenges digesting it. And it's like, no, you just need to little pieces, couple bites, reintroduce it back into the body so that the body can respond and create a microbiome that supports the digestion of meat again.
Such a great point. That actually happened to me because I was a vegetarian for a very long time. And I became a vegetarian as a teenager, not because of animals or anything like that, but because I felt like I had like a Carl's Jr. addiction, like hamburgers and French fries. And I was, and it probably was the French fries and the bread. It wasn't the meat that was bad.
Yeah.
But I was an all or nothing. I'm like, okay, I'm cutting it all out. Like I'm going to be a vegetarian. I'll never walk into a fast food restaurant again because of it. But then I got pregnant. And my body was like, you better eat a steak. Like I need all the meat in your body.
Yeah.
And then I tried to kind of keep, but I wasn't feeling great. And I didn't realize the microbiome piece of it. So that's a good point.
Yeah. You're just trying to figure out what your body wants. You know, what does my body want? How does my body feel the best? And you won't know that until you start playing around with different food groups.
We'll be right back. Don't go away. It's just getting good. On StRest, we talk a lot about supporting the systems in your life that hold you up, your habits, your routines, sleep, but that also includes your feet. Remember that song we used to sing, knee bone connected to the hip bone? That's not right, but you know where I'm going with this, right? It's all connected and it starts with your feet. And if you're like me, you probably sacrificed comfort to style more times than you can count. I was able to join Revitalign when I worked at QVC to create really, really great shoes, flip-flops, sandals for you for many years. And now they are a sponsor of StRest. I love this brand. My entire family wears them. It's all about aligning your body from the ground up, literally, but also doing it with super cute styles. I wear them around the house, on long days of filming, even traveling, of course, down at the beach. And the difference is my body feels better at the end of the day. And that's what I want for you as well. Going into a new season, make sure you get yourself new good shoes. And we have a discount for you. Visit wacoshoecompany.com. That's WACO shoecompany.com and enter the code Kerstin, Kerstin 20 for 20% off everything from really cute wedges to boots to sneakers. Get out there and get your sneakers. That's Waco Shoe Company, WACO shoecompany.com and put in the code Kerstin 20, Kerstin 20. So you get 20% off and support yourself from the ground up. So you're in perimenopause. You are addressing how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, the spirituality, community, relational aspect of things, which is huge, which you have to follow Natalie on Instagram. She does an amazing job of talking about all of these pieces and pulling them together. You are asking your body what it needs in terms of food, eating probably differently than you did in your 20s and your 30s, but honoring the kid in you and not completely denying yourself. That's something that I've always loved about the work you do, because when you have somebody who's like, I like no good for me foods, which are clients that come to you, what do you say?
Yeah, I do have some clients actually that are like, no, thank you to the fruits and the veggies. And I was like, I'll get you there. We'll get you there in time and I usually supplement with them first. So we'll work with easier things to introduce into their diet. What will they eat? And then we'll kind of lower out some of the inflammatory causing things. So a lot of the processed stuff. So I'll start giving them alternatives, for what they're already eating. So if they're already eating pizza and hamburgers, I just try to find a way to clean that up a little bit. Again, in the kitchen, super easy. Like, I'm not going to be like, and here's a recipe with 19 ingredients. No, I'm going to be like, go to the store, buy a rotisserie chicken, keep this easy on yourself, our bag salads. But I'm going to help them make tweaks slowly, because that's the other thing. We don't want to go from doing it this way and then completely changing it, because I find there's like a bit of a shock factor there, and it's harder to maintain because your body kind of works more in a pattern. It likes to know what's happening next. And if we make these big changes in the diet, it can be really hard to stick with them because it doesn't feel normal to us.
Mm-hmm. I think it was you who said, maybe I'll try baby food. Like if there's somebody who is, just really resistant to fruits and vegetables and things like that, let's go to the baby food aisle. I have used that and it has worked. Like there are people in my life who I'm not going to eat fruits and vegetables, but the baby food, I might try that. Like, you never know.
It's like applesauce kind of. And then, and then because it's usually one or two things. So I find they don't like things blending either. Yeah. So I can't even be like, have the soup, or, we'll move them into sauces. So it's like they're used to having pasta. So I'm like, let's figure out a way to sneak veggies into their pasta sauce, like blending stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a good trick, because they'll start to feel better. And when they feel better, they're like, oh, okay, now, and their taste buds change. That's the other thing people don't recognize, that when you start cleaning up your diet, your taste buds change. So you don't crave that processed stuff as much anymore. And those whole foods start to taste better to you, and you start to want them, which is kind of nice.
The biggest one that I see a difference is your sweetness factors. Yeah. As you start to take sugar out, you'll feel that pleasure that you get from having an Oreo in a piece of fruit more, because you're not having as much sugar. So any little bit of sugar, even naturally occurring, is very rewarding and feels great. I have a friend who has a lot of sugar in her life, and that's how she eats. And we will take a bite of the same thing, and I'll be like, wow, that's super sweet. And she'll be like, that's not sweet at all. I need to add some sugar on top of that.
Yeah.
And it's because the taste buds change.
Yep. That's exactly what that is. In fact, when I finished up those 6 weeks of doing all whole foods, a friend brought me some cookies. She went to this like cookie boutique. I don't know why she did it, but she brought me these cookies. I think she knew I was doing this Whole Foods thing. I think she knew I was done, but I ate one, like, cause there are these like gourmet, like cookies.
Yeah, I've seen those places.
And I felt terrible afterwards. My stomach was just like, it tasted fine and everything, but my stomach hurt. And it was just a reminder of like, wow, for the last 6 weeks, I haven't had anything processed like this in my stomach. And it was just sort of, you shock the body a little bit. And it was good. I stopped eating it because it's hurting, but it just goes to show you how fast your body changes.
I think it's a big takeaway for anybody listening who's feeling effects of perimenopause right now, like
Yeah.
really feeling them. Where do I start? Could you do these 6 weeks just like Natalie did? Could you try really cleaning up your diet and getting rid of the sugar and getting rid of the flours and the processed whole food from quality soil, 5 ingredients or less, other than your protein shakes?
That
Because
one
those
I
are a lot of
allow. You can let that in
that
there.
one I allow.
Yeah.
Try that for 6 weeks. I think that you could.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
see the difference in the feels. And then once you have these foundational things, like you're working on your sleep, you're moving, you are in community, and you're cleaning up your diet, then we go to what are the supplements? And so what are the supplements for you in this age?
So definitely the protein, so the collagen and the whey protein, electrolytes for
Yeah.
hydration. We're becoming a little more depleted, and so we're seeing this big kind of boom with electrolytes, and that one I'm jumping on board with.
Make sure they don't have sugar in them.
Yes.
Like avoid the sugar.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I'm cool with stevia. Stevia, there's some of them can have this. That one doesn't seem. I don't see anything bad,
Me too.
and so I'm
Stevia, monk fruit,
yeah.
allulose. I'll get on board with those.
Yeah, those can be good. And if you're trying to not have as much sugar, I find that those actually help because when you're drinking those ones that are sweetened with that, you kind of get that. I know, at least for me anyways, it doesn't feel like I'm avoiding too much sugar because I'm drinking something sweet. So magnesium is one that's often talked about, but one that I think is missed is L-theanine.
Yeah, I think I don't hear that a lot.
It's an amino acid found in green tea, and it is a calming effect on the body because you enter perimenopause. That's the first thing we start to address is that irritability. Our moods are kind of going all over the place. We're having a hard time sleeping. If you aren't in a relaxed state, you're not going to fall asleep, which is often why magnesium is recommended. But L-theanine actually addresses your GABA, your serotonin, and it helps keep you calm. So it's directly related to the mood. And so that one I highly recommend. And you can even use it. So you can use it daily. I think the doses are usually around 100 to 200 milligrams a day to just treat sort of the daily anxiety that pops up with perimenopause. But you can treat it if there's situational things going on, because I don't know if you've had this, but all of a sudden it's just like getting not panicky, but kind of just overwhelmed really quickly and super stressed. And I'm like, am I having a panic attack? What's happening? So I find you can treat that moment. I will usually lie on the ground and put my feet up on the couch and just breathe, drink some cold water, right? But then I take some L-theanine, and that you can go up to, I believe, 300 to 400 milligrams to treat sort of in the moment, high intense anxiety naturally.
It sounds a little bit like an ashwagandha, not in the treating in the moment, but sounds a
It's
little
sort
bit
of
like
like an ashwagandha, except this one is really addressing more of the brain chemistry, the serotonin and the GABA, where ashwagandha is an adaptogen. So it's addressing more of the
that.
way that the nervous system is responding to stress. And so ashwagandha would build over time. So I would recommend taking ashwagandha at least 2 to 3 months daily to reap the benefit, because it's going to build in the system, and that's how it becomes effective.
And so you could take your L-theanine during the day. It won't put you to sleep.
Nope, it doesn't make you sleepy. It's just more of a mood regulator. Think of it more like mood, and magnesium more
Totally
like
in.
relax.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm totally in as
I
we
know,
all rush to get L-theanine.
right? Add to cart. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think.
So
I
really,
try
really
not
great.
to. Oh, omega-3s, I'm always like, for brain health, I think we should all be on an omega-3. Vitamin D when it's not summertime, because we can usually get it from the sun. And then everything else kind of trickles off from there. I prefer to go to the food first. I just think it's the most accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So then what about weight loss in this season? I know a lot of people are turning towards GLP-1s. Where do these play into this time of life?
I'm probably going to say half of my clients are on GLP-1s right now. And not a lot of them are having good experiences. The results that I think we're seeing in the media, and we see a lot of celebrities on them. And so that's interesting. That's just my experience with them that I'm seeing right off the bat. But let me break it down a little bit more. So those GLP-1s, what are they trying to do, right? Or what's the experience while we're on them? It's reducing the appetite, it's slowing our stomach emptying, and it is improving our insulin resistance, so blood sugar control. When that's all happening, we eat less, right? And so you're seeing, so people who tend to go on the GLP-1s, they are experiencing weight loss. However, what I'm seeing now that's really closely tied to that weight loss isn't that it's necessarily coming from fat stores, but it's muscle atrophy. And that's alarming to me because now I'm looking at a subcategory of women who are all in perimenopause. And all of a sudden, what happens if they go on Ozempic? Because this is where our muscle is a strong indicator of the state of our metabolism. So if we start getting rid of our muscle, this is where I'm wondering, well, what's going to happen when they come off of it? And so I'm not against them. I'm definitely not against them. But as soon as someone goes on them, I'm like, okay, we need to keep talking the entire time. Because what's interesting is that when you go on a mostly whole foods diet, it literally mimics the side effects of Ozempic. We stay fuller longer, blood sugar becomes regulated because of all the fiber we're consuming, slow stomach emptying, we tend to eat less. The body tends to actually regulate its weight. The longer you stay on a whole foods plan, around 90% over time, usually around the 6-week mark, we really start to see weight regulating. And that's promising. And so if they don't want to go on Ozempic, because some people just feel like they have to. They feel like they've tried everything and they can't. And that's kind of where I'd say my line of work is that I'm trying to help people stay on track, on a plan, so they can have those same results. We're looking at one kind of altering the biology over time, which is what whole foods do, where, Ozempic and GLP-1s, they are changing sort of the neurochemistry. So it's managing it for you, where I guess the diet teaches you how to manage your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
So we go back to like before you go on this,
Mhm.
make the agreement with yourself that you're going to do 6 weeks of whole food. Try that first. I know
Yes,
that that's harder than taking a shot though.
absolutely. But what's harder, being on this drug for so long and coming off of it, and then you get a rebound. Almost everyone I've seen come off the drug rebounds because it doesn't actually change their relationship with food, and they immediately go back to the baseline brain behavior. It goes right back to where you started right before you go on it.
Have we seen anybody, and I'm asking the collective we, not just you,
Mhm.
who has gone on it, gotten to their goal weight in that time, learned how to eat better, learned how to sleep better, how to move better, how to have a better relationship, gets off of it, maintains the weight and their relationship with food? Has there been any stories of that?
That's what I'm doing right now. That is 100% what I'm doing with clients right now, is that if you're going to stay on it short term, because I think some people are going on it, they're being told you'll need to stay on it long term. But some people are like, I don't want to do it long term. I want to go on it, lose the weight, and then I want to manage it. And so my recommendation is 3 months work with somebody who can actually help you make those dietary changes, who can help you understand what foods you need to be eating and why while you're still on the drug. And then when you come off of it, really work with the emotional side of things and the physical things. Because when you have a craving, and you'll experience this on Ozempic or any of the GLP-1s, and when you do whole foods, is that your body craving goes away. And it's really just mental. Like your brain's like, hey, remember donuts, remember cookies, remember ice cream, remember pizza? And you're like, yeah, but I don't feel like it, right? When we come off those drugs, that body and mind craving comes together and intensifies. Ooh, I really want it, right? And then we go for it. And in that moment, it's so intense. I call it almost a possessed feeling, where we will just go in and do it and we don't care what the outcome is. And that work needs to be done and expected. So it's, what do I do in those moments when the cravings intensifies? I need to know what my plan is. I need to know what I'm eating. I need to know how much I'm allowed to have. Where's the flexibility? How much is enough? Because what I don't want happening is that we come off these drugs and then we regain weight, but then we still have a muscle atrophy problem because we've lost some muscle. We need to actually do strength training to get that muscle back and up that protein again to get that muscle to be rebuilt. And that's a lot of work. And so it's that question of like, well, what's more work for you? What's actually harder? Because it's all hard. All of it is hard. But I find, right? But it's that when we go diet first, you kind of get into a rhythm, and the longer you do it, the easier it gets. That's true.
Is there this is how long you can be on this, then I need you to stop?
That's a great question. I leave that to the prescribing doctor because I'm not a physician. I don't want to come in and say how long people should be on them for. I'm just there. I just really want to be with them while they're doing it. Some people, you know what? I haven't even had any consistencies with timing. Some people go on it for a couple weeks and come off right away because they felt really nauseous. Some people are on it. They're not seeing the results, so they're increasing their dose. I would say 75% of the people that I've been working with who are on them are actually, their doses are getting increased. Their symptoms are starting to subside. And there's a bit of a flip flop between, is it some weeks it's working well and some weeks it's not? And I don't know why that is, the inconsistency. So that's an interesting question I would have even for listeners that are on them is do you notice that too?
Seem to hear the people who go on them and then just never get off, like years. Like, okay, this is just my supplement. I take this
Yeah.
forever now.
Yeah. And that's often
That scares me.
Yeah, that scares me too.
Because I don't know if we know enough in terms of, well, we do know now the muscle atrophy, but the other things that could cause.
Well, that's the concern because they're usually not eating enough. They're not eating the protein that we need them to be eating, or they're not having the fiber that they should be having because they're not really that hungry. I worry more about the nutritional deficiencies over time.
How is that then impacting a woman in perimenopause or menopause too, where you're already totally crazy and now you're putting another drug in there?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Although you are opening my eyes, because as a health coach, and I do not work with nearly as many people as you do, and I do a lot of groups, I'm pretty much a hard line on, I don't think that you should be on them. Like, I'm not going to recommend them. But I love this caring, nurturing space of, okay, you're going to go on them. I'm going to hold your hand through this. So if you are somebody who is like, listen, this is my non-negotiable. I want to go on GLP-1s. I want to lose the weight. Getting a coach to do it with you is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because first, you want to make sure that you're getting enough nutrients, right? Because it's going to, so if it's making us so we don't feel quite so hungry because it's reducing our appetite, you've got someone who's going, hey, I need to make sure, like, let's keep reviewing what you're eating. So dietary reviews. And then when maybe they reach their goal, they reach their weight loss goal, I'm going to be really cautious about where it came from. Did it come from muscle? It certainly would have come from muscle and from body fat, and transition, right? So they need coaching to transition into, why do I need to do strength training 3 to 4 times a week for 30 to 45 minutes? Why do I now need to up my protein probably closer to that 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? To get them to make sure that the structure, the protein is being added to our diet correctly so that the body can thrive, right? Because that's what we want it to do. We don't want it to be just enough. We want to be in a thriving state.
Mm-hmm. That's another great point. So if you're somebody who is going on one or is on one, understanding that you probably need to increase your protein intake and you probably need to increase your weightlifting. Like, that needs to be what you do.
Yeah.
If you're on one of these.
The stat I heard was 30 to 40% of weight loss can come from lean mass. And that's terrifying.
Way too much.
That's way too much.
Too much.
That's way too much. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard because, like, we're dealing with this, like, but I want to lose weight because I don't want to weigh, if I've got X amount of weight that I want to lose, maybe there's side effects to that excess weight, inflammation, health issues, right? So I understand that we're looking at so many things, like, isn't it healthier for me to lose the weight and maybe they want their cholesterol to come down or their blood pressure, which often does when we lose that weight. And so I feel like people they're like, I just don't know what to do. And right. In that case, it's like, you don't have to make that decision as if there's only one right decision. Make a decision. You're going to walk down a path, and it's just, you're going to have an experience. Just as you're doing that experience, keep your eyes open and pull in whatever supports you need. We don't have to see this as all or nothing.
Yeah. Don't do it alone. Don't do it just with a doctor because they don't necessarily have the time to dive into all this. Do
Or the
it
nutrition
with a coach.
background, you know?
Yeah.
When I was back in school taking that course, it was most of them were doctors, which I was very excited to see. I thought, yay, we're like combining all of the information. This is great because this is actually how we help people.
One more thing I want to have you weigh in on is fasting for this age group for perimenopause and menopause.
Yes, this is a good one. My answer is always some people are going to benefit from it and some people aren't. And I really teach the trial and error. I don't want you to listen to what anyone else is doing. I want you to try it and I want you to see how you feel. If you have this feeling where you're like, I think this is going to be good for me, let's do it. Let's try it and see how you feel. In general, though, if I were to report back on my own findings with clients, I find the perimenopause group perimenopause group don't do so well with the fasting. I think because cortisol is going all over the place. And again, it's hard to know. Everybody's different. I find they do better from an energy, mood, and weight loss perspective when they eat breakfast. So get that 30 grams of protein in the morning with some fiber. They experience more of that blood sugar regulation, mood regulation. They're not snacking, into the evening, which is kind of part of what could be causing our challenges with weight. As we get deeper into perimenopause and into menopause, I do start to see more clients bringing back in sort of a more not so intense fasting schedule, but they're fasting sort of 16 hours. 16, maybe 18 seems high, but I would say 16 hours seems to be the sweet spot later into perimenopause and menopause. But again, I have seen everyone go to war over this question and have heated conversations about it.
It
And I'm
really
like,
is.
it comes down to your cortisol. How does your cortisol respond to that? How much cortisol do you have? And how is your body regulating it, right? We need cortisol. Everyone, freaks out about it and thinks we have to get rid of it. But if we didn't have cortisol, you wouldn't wake up in the morning. So we need cortisol. We need melatonin balanced with each other. They need to be talking. And so it really comes down to how is your cortisol? What else is affecting your cortisol? Because someone who has a much more stressful life is going to have a lot more cortisol. And fasting can increase cortisol, but we have to understand why, right? Because cortisol is secreting so that we release insulin because your body's like, oh, there's nothing in here to eat. Okay, that's cool. We'll go get it out of storage. So it has to tell insulin to go do that. So cortisol comes out. So we always think of it as this terrible stress thing. But it's not just that. It's making sure you have energy. If you go into fight or flight, it's like, oh, we got to send blood into the muscles. Cortisol and insulin have another conversation, right? And so it's like, well, what is my body's relationship like with cortisol every day? How I sleep, how I move my body, what I'm eating, how intense are my workouts? People are going on these really long cardio workouts. You might be up in cortisol a little bit more than you need to sometimes.
You can think of it as this amazing tool once you learn how to harness it. Because yes, cortisol can create belly fat and it can create aging in the skin and not necessarily good. But I have learned through fasting and then fasting, but then also balancing your workout. So maybe if you're fasting hard, then a hard workout, which is more cortisol, or a cold plunge isn't necessarily what you want. So like balancing where your cortisol is coming from, or maybe you're not hard fasting, long fasting when you're also caring for an aging parent. Like it's all about dialing this up, dialing this down. But I've learned that I can harness cortisol, like for instance, in a situation like this, when I'm speaking or when I'm doing podcasts, I'll do them fasted because you're also clearer. You also have more clarity in that. But then I dial it back down because I know, I have to go to sleep. Or also in this age group, when you do still have a cycle, matching the way that you fast with your cycle. Like we're more prepared to fast longer on our first couple of days of bleeding.
Yeah.
We really shouldn't be fasting a couple of days leading up to your period or right at ovulation. So it can all be tools when you know how to use them.
Yep. Customized approach. Because it's funny because you went in fasted to this conversation. I had to eat oatmeal because I felt my blood sugar dropping.
Right.
But
so
I'm in a
different,
right? And so it's just like, I hope that empowers people to go, okay, I'm not going to get so overwhelmed by all of this information that's out there. What I'm hearing is I can do some discovery work for myself and give myself this custom approach, and I can feel good without thinking like, well, what do I do? Is it this or that? Is that the right way or is that the wrong way? which is what it feels like because everyone's
It
so
does.
adamant about what they're teaching. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. It's all very bio-individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
We covered a lot
We did.
for women in this age group, perimenopause and menopause. I think a huge takeaway is that trying 6 weeks of doing whole foods, of getting rid
Yes.
of the flour and getting rid of the
Yeah.
sugar before you
Yeah.
dive into anything else.
Yeah.
I love the idea of L-theanine. I'm jumping on that bandwagon for a second to try that. The protein conversation, getting the different types of protein and the collagen is super, super important.
Mhm.
Playing with fasting if it works for you, but it might not work for you. But it's also something that it's a tool in your toolbox. And if you're doing these GLP-1s, if this is, do it hand in hand with a coach and up
Please.
your
Yes.
protein and
Yes.
up your weightlifting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because those GLP-1 conversations and perimenopause conversations are almost the same. So if I were to make a top 5 list, it would be protein, 30, 30, 30 as kind of your minimum, right? 30 grams in the morning, 30 grams if you're not fasting, 30 grams in the afternoon, 30 grams in the evening. Strength training, 3 to 4 times a week, 30, 45 minutes a session. And you can do that with equipment, but you can also do like body resistant weight training. I think people, when they go strength training, they're going, what does that mean? Like you can use your body weight, right? Planking, lunges, all those things, right? And then regular movement on top of that throughout the
Yeah.
day, right?
Yeah.
Walk, those weighted vests. I'm a huge fan of a weighted vest.
Did that this morning. So good.
I love it. I love this whole community of everyone just weighted vests, right? And all the reasons why we love a weighted vest. Bone health, where you have to protect our bones. Managing your stress means creating a space for fun and allowing yourself to process when things are difficult. That's managed stress. So that's number 4 on my list. And then number 5, sleep support. And that is all the things you've already probably heard, right? The magnesium, the meditating, the off our screens, the reading, but that you might also want to explore if you've tried everything else, have a conversation with somebody who can actually talk to you about what's going on with hormone replacement therapy and if it's right for them, because we need our sleep.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And Natalie and I both shared at the beginning, progesterone was a game changer. So have a conversation about that. Natalie, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Nutritional Therapist, and you can check me out on my website, which is my name, nataliefader.com.
You're in Canada?
I'm in Canada, but I have registered titles, and so I actually practice globally. So half my clients happen to be in the US, and so I'm having
that was my question.
Yeah, lots in the US.
If you want to, and she has space for you, please look up Natalie. I think she'd be just a blessing to all of you. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for being here and being very, very vulnerable and sharing your story through this time of life as well.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
It's finally here. It's the cold plunge episode. I cannot wait. We have an expert, Marie Bodine. She's going to teach you all about cold plunging, how to do it, when you shouldn't do it, really what goes into it, and kind of get rid of all of our misconceptions about cold plunging and set you right, because I love it and I want you to love it too. That's coming up on the next episode of StRest.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help others find the podcast and join our community. Follow me on social media at Kerstin.Lindquist for daily tips and inspiration. And visit my website at www.Kerstin-Lindquist.com to sign up for our newsletter and receive exclusive content. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition. The host of this podcast is a certified health coach and medical researcher, not a licensed medical professional, and the content shared does not constitute medical advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we encourage you to do your own research and consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare treatment plans. Thank you for joining me on this journey to reduce stress and make room for rest. Remember, you're not alone. Keep coming back, share your story, ask for help, and give yourself grace.